Park Do-hyun stood at the window of the space station and watched the stars. He had been living on the orbital research platform called Horizon's Edge for 6 months now. It was a good job. He helped different alien species understand humans, and he helped humans understand aliens. He was a cultural liaison, which meant he was like a bridge between worlds. Today was special. The Valari delegation was arriving. Do-hyun had studied the Valari for weeks before their arrival. They came from a planet orbiting a distant star called Kepler 442. They looked like large cats that walked on 2 legs. Their fur was soft and could change colors depending on their mood. When they were happy, their fur turned warm gold. When they were angry, it became deep red. When they were calm, it stayed silver. The Valari were proud beings. They cared deeply about respect, privacy, and proper behavior. In their culture, certain actions had very specific meanings. You could not just do things casually with a Valari. Everything meant something. The shuttle carrying the delegation docked at the station. Do-hyun waited in the arrival bay with his supervisor, a tall woman named Director Kwon Mirai. She looked nervous. "Remember," she said quietly to Do-hyun, "this alliance is important. The Valari have technology that could help millions of people on Earth. Do not make any mistakes." "I understand," Do-hyun said, but he felt the pressure in his chest. The doors opened, and 5 Valari walked into the station. They moved with grace, like dancers. Their silver fur shimmered under the lights. At the front of the group were 2 Valari who looked almost exactly the same. They were twins. Director Kwon stepped forward and bowed. "Welcome to Horizon's Edge. I am Director Kwon Mirai. This is Park Do-hyun, your cultural liaison." Do-hyun bowed deeply. "It is my honor to serve you during your stay." One of the twins stepped forward. Her fur had a slight golden tint, and her eyes were curious. "I am Nari," she said. Her voice was soft and musical. "I look forward to learning about your people." The other twin stayed back. Her fur was pure silver, and her eyes were sharp. She did not smile. "I am Yuna," she said simply. Then she said nothing more. Over the next few weeks, Do-hyun spent most of his time with Nari. She was warm and friendly. She asked him hundreds of questions about Earth. What did humans eat? Why did they laugh? What were families like? Why did they shake hands? Do-hyun enjoyed answering her questions. Nari made him feel comfortable, even though she was an alien from a distant star. Sometimes they would sit together on the observation deck and watch the stars spin slowly past the windows. "Your people are strange," Nari said one evening, "but I think I like them." Do-hyun smiled. "We try our best." Yuna was different. She rarely spoke to Do-hyun. When he greeted her in the corridors, she would nod politely but keep walking. Her fur stayed silver or sometimes shifted to a cool blue that meant she was distant or cautious. Do-hyun did not take it personally. He knew that some Valari were slow to trust outsiders. One day, Nari gave Do-hyun a great honor. She asked him to prepare her evening meal. "In our culture," she explained, "sharing food is very important, but preparing food for someone is even more meaningful. It is something we only allow people we trust." Do-hyun felt proud. "I will do my best to honor that trust." Nari taught him how to make the dish. It was called crystallized nectar. It came from special flowers on the Valari homeworld. The nectar had to be heated to exactly the right temperature and served in a specific bowl. The whole process was like a ritual. Do-hyun practiced several times until he got it perfect. Nari watched him with approval, her fur glowing gold. On the evening of the meal, Do-hyun prepared the crystallized nectar with great care. He carried the bowl through the station corridors toward Nari's quarters. His heart was beating fast. He did not want to make any mistakes. He reached the door and pressed the chime. The door opened. Do-hyun walked inside. The room was dim, lit only by soft blue lights. A Valari sat in the center of the room in a meditation pose. Her eyes were closed. Her fur was silver. Do-yun approached slowly and knelt down. He placed the bowl in front of her and bowed his head. "I hope this brings you comfort," he said, using the traditional Valari words that Nari had taught him. The Valari opened her eyes. They were sharp, cold, angry. Her fur shifted from silver to deep crimson in an instant. It was not Nari, it was Yuna. Do-yun's blood turned to ice. He had walked into the wrong room. He had performed the intimate feeding ritual with the wrong twin. Yuna rose to her feet. Her whole body was tense. Her fur was now so red, it almost looked black. "You dare?" she hissed. Her voice was quiet, but it cut like a knife. I made a mistake," Do-hyun stammered. "I thought this was Nari's room. I am so sorry. Please. I did not mean—" "You entered my private space," Yuna said. "You performed the bonding ritual. You spoke the sacred words." Her eyes burned into him. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" Do-hyun's mind raced. He knew that privacy was sacred to the Valari. He knew that the feeding ritual was deeply personal. But he had not fully understood how serious it was until this moment. "I will leave," he said quickly, standing up. "I will explain to everyone that it was an accident. Please, I meant no disrespect." "Disrespect?" Yuna's voice rose. "This is not about disrespect. This is Vertan. You have intruded upon my spiritual sovereignty. You have violated boundaries that should never be crossed." Do-yun felt sick. He had studied Valari culture for weeks, but he had never heard the word Vertan. It sounded ancient. It sounded serious. "What can I do?" he asked desperately. "How can I fix this?" Yuna's fur flickered. For a moment, Do-hyun thought he saw something other than anger in her eyes. But then it was gone. "Get out," she said. "Now!" Do-hyun bowed and left the room. His hands were shaking. He walked back to his own quarters in a daze. He had made a terrible mistake. He had accidentally insulted one of the most important members of the Valari delegation, and he had no idea how to make it right. That night, Do-hyun could not sleep. He lay in his bed and stared at the ceiling. He thought about Yuna's red fur and burning eyes. He thought about the word Vertan. He thought about how he had failed. And somewhere deep inside, he thought about his sister Yoonji, who had always believed he could do great things among the stars. He had let everyone down. The news spread through the station like fire. By morning, everyone knew what Do-hyun had done. The Valari delegates whispered to each other in their musical language. The human crew members stared at Do-hyun when he walked past. Some looked confused. Some looked angry. Some just shook their heads. Director Kwon called Do-hyun to her office. Her face was pale and tight. "Do you understand what you have done?" she asked. "I made a mistake," Do-hyun said. "I went to the wrong room. I did not mean—" "It does not matter what you meant," the director said sharply. "In Valari culture, intention is not important. Impact is important. You performed a sacred ritual with someone who did not consent. To them, it is like a violation of the soul." Do-hyun felt his stomach drop. "What will happen now?" "Ambassador Yuna has locked herself in her quarters. She refuses to come out. She refuses to speak to anyone." Director Kwon leaned forward. "The other Valari are talking about ending the diplomatic mission early. Do you understand? We could lose this alliance because of one mistake." Do-hyun's throat was dry. "There must be something I can do." "I do not know," the director said, "but you had better find out." Do-hyun left the office and walked through the station. People avoided looking at him. He felt like a ghost. He found Nari in the botanical garden. She was sitting among the plants, her fur a sad shade of pale blue. When she saw Do-hyun, she did not smile. "I heard what happened," she said quietly. "Nari, I am so sorry, Do-yun said. I thought it was your room. The doors look the same. I should have checked. I should have been more careful. Yes, Nari said. You should have. Her words hurt, but Do-yun knew they were true. Is there anything I can do? He asked. Any way to make this right? Nari was quiet for a long moment. Her tail moved slowly back and forth. There is one way, she finally said, but it is very difficult. It is called the Path of Amends. Tell me, Do-hyun said immediately. Nari looked at him with serious eyes. The Path of Amends is an ancient tradition. It allows someone who has committed vertan to seek forgiveness, but it is not easy. The offended person chooses 3 trials, 3 acts of sacrifice. The offender must complete all 3 with sincerity and humility. And if I complete them, then forgiveness may be granted. The vertan is erased. Honor is restored. Do-hyun felt hope rise in his chest. Then I will do it. I will walk the path. Nari held up her hand. Wait. You must understand the risk. If Yuna does not accept your efforts as sincere, you will be marked as Vertan Core. It means one who cannot be trusted. You will never be allowed to work with Valari again. And the alliance between our peoples will fail. Do-hyun thought about this. The risk was enormous. If he failed, he would not only destroy his own career, he would destroy the hopes of 2 civilizations. But if he did nothing, the result would be the same. I have to try, he said. Nari studied his face for a long time. Then, slowly, she nodded. I will speak to my sister, she said. I cannot promise she will agree. She is very hurt and very angry, but I will try. Thank you, Do-hyun said. Nari stood up. Do not thank me yet. The Path of Amends is not about gratitude. It is about sacrifice. She walked away, leaving Do-hyun alone among the plants. 2 days passed. Do-hyun heard nothing. He continued his work on the station, but his heart was not in it. He kept thinking about Yuna alone in her quarters. He kept thinking about the anger in her eyes. On the 3rd day, a message arrived on his computer screen. It was from Yuna. Come to my quarters. Sunset hour. Do-hyun's hands trembled as he read the words. She had agreed to see him. That was something. At sunset hour, Do-hyun walked to Yuna's quarters. The door opened when he arrived. He stepped inside. Yuna sat in the center of the room, just as before. But this time, her fur was not red. It was gray, a cold, distant gray. Do-hyun knelt before her and bowed his head. Thank you for seeing me, he said. I am not seeing you because I want to, Yuna said. Her voice was flat. I am seeing you because my sister asked me to, and because your director has been sending messages every hour. Do-hyun stayed silent. He knew this was not the time to speak. You wish to walk the path of amends, Yuna continued. Yes. Do you know why this path exists? Do-hyun thought carefully. To give a chance for forgiveness. No, Yuna said sharply. It exists because actions have weight. When you do something wrong, words are not enough to fix it. You must show through action that you understand the harm you caused. You must make yourself vulnerable. You must sacrifice. She leaned forward slightly. The path is not about making me feel better. It is about making you understand. Do-hyun nodded. I am ready to understand. Yuna's eyes studied him. Her gray fur did not change color. Very well, she said. I will give you 3 trials. Complete them with sincerity, and I will consider forgiveness. Fail, and you will be Vertan Core forever. I accept, Do-hyun said. Yuna stood. She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Your first trial, she said. You will give up your voice for 3 days. You will not speak, not to explain yourself, not to defend yourself, not for any reason. You will be silent and listen to what others say about you. Do-hyun felt a chill. 3 days without speaking, while people gossiped and blamed him? It begins now, Yuna said. Do-hyun opened his mouth to respond, then stopped. The trial had already begun. He closed his mouth and bowed. Yuna turned to look at him. For just a moment, her fur flickered to something lighter. But then it was gray again. Go, she said. Do-hyun stood and left the room. His first trial had begun. The next 3 days were the hardest of his life. He went about his duties in silence. People talked about him constantly. I heard he did it on purpose, one crew member said in the cafeteria. He wanted to create an incident. No, he is just careless, another said. He should never have been given this job. He has ruined everything. We will lose the alliance because of him. Do-hyun sat and listened. He could not defend himself. He could not explain. He could only be silent and accept their words. At night, alone in his quarters, he wanted to scream. He wanted to tell everyone the truth. It was an accident. He had not meant to hurt anyone. But he stayed silent, because this was the trial, and because deep down, he knew that his intentions did not erase the harm he had caused. On the 3rd day, Do-hyun sat in the observation deck. He was tired and sad. His silence had made people think he was guilty. His reputation was ruined. But then he noticed something. Yuna was standing at the far end of the deck watching him. Her fur was still gray, but she was watching. And somehow, that gave Do-hyun the strength to continue. When the 3 days of silence ended, Do-hyun spoke his first word in the privacy of his own room. It was just a simple word. Hello? His voice sounded strange to him, like it belonged to someone else. He had survived the first trial, but he knew the path of amends was not about survival. It was about understanding, and he was beginning to understand. During his silence, he had heard what people really thought. He had heard their anger, their disappointment, their fear. He had also heard their gossip and their cruelty. But most importantly, he had heard the weight of his own actions reflected back at him through their words. He had caused harm. It did not matter that it was an accident. The harm was real. That afternoon, Do-hyun received another message from Yuna. Come to my quarters. The second trial awaits. Do-hyun walked through the station with his head held high. People still stared at him, but he no longer felt ashamed. He had accepted his silence with dignity. He would accept whatever came next, the same way. When he entered Yuna's quarters, she was standing by the window again. Her fur was still gray, but it seemed slightly lighter than before. Or maybe Do-hyun was imagining things. You completed the first trial, Yuna said without turning around. Yes, Do-hyun replied. You did not cheat. You did not whisper when you thought no one was listening. You were truly silent. Do-hyun nodded, then remembered she was not looking at him. I gave my word. Yuna turned to face him. Her expression was still cold, but there was something in her eyes that had not been there before. Curiosity, perhaps. The second trial, she said, you will perform a task of labor that serves my people, not yours. You will repair the atmospheric filters in the lower decks of our ship. Do-hyun knew the Valari ship. It was docked at the far end of the station. He had seen it from a distance, but had never been inside. I will do it, he said. There is more, Yuna continued. You must do it alone, without human tools, without human technology. You will use only Valari methods and Valari materials. This was a much harder challenge. Valari technology was not like human technology. Humans built machines from metal and wire and computer chips, but Valari technology was organic. They grew their ships from living materials. Their tools were made from plants and minerals that responded to touch and intention. Do-hyun had no training in Valari methods. He would have to learn everything from scratch. How long do I have? He asked. As long as it takes, Yuna said. But know this, if you damage the filters instead of repairing them, you will have failed the trial. The stakes were high. The atmospheric filters kept the air clean inside the Valari ship. If Do-hyun broke them, the Valari would not be able to stay on the station. The mission would end in disaster. I understand, Do-hyun said. I will not fail. Yuna looked at him for a long moment. Then she gestured toward the door. Begin. Do-hyun went to the Valari ship the next morning. One of the Valari engineers, an older male named Taiho, met him at the entrance. His fur was a cautious orange. So you are the human who offended Ambassador Yuna, Taiho said. Yes, Do-hyun admitted. I am walking the path of amends. Taiho made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sigh. The path is not for the weak. Come. I will show you the filters. He led Do-hyun deep into the ship. The corridors were not like human corridors. They curved and twisted like the inside of a living creature. The walls were warm and slightly soft. Lights glowed from within the material itself, not from fixtures. They reached the lower decks where the atmospheric filters were located. Do-hyun saw immediately that they were damaged. Parts of the organic material had dried out and cracked. The filters were still working, but barely. This is the problem, Taiho said. The filters need to be regrown. The dead material must be removed and replaced with new growth. How do I do that? Do-hyun asked. Taiho showed him the Valari tools. They were nothing like human tools. There were no hammers, no wrenches, no drills. Instead, there were smooth stones that vibrated at different frequencies. There were liquids that could dissolve dead organic material. There were seeds that would grow new material when planted in the right conditions. You must be patient, Taiho said. Valari technology does not respond to force. It responds to intention and care. If you are angry or frustrated, the materials will know. They will not cooperate. Do-hyun picked up one of the smooth stones. It felt warm in his hand, almost alive. I will learn, he said. Taiho left him alone with the damaged filters. Do-hyun worked for 2 full days. The first day was terrible. He tried to use the tools the way he would use human tools, with force and speed. Nothing worked. The materials resisted him. His hands became raw and blistered from handling the unfamiliar textures. By the end of the first day, he had made almost no progress. He sat on the floor of the lower deck, exhausted and frustrated. Then he remembered Taiho's words. Valari technology responds to intention and care. Do-hyun closed his eyes. He thought about why he was here. Not to prove himself. Not to save his career. He was here because he had hurt someone. He was here to make amends. He was here to serve. He picked up the tools again. This time, he moved slowly. He paid attention to what the materials were telling him. When the organic matter resisted, he did not push harder. He stopped and thought about what it needed. The second day went better. Do-hyun found a rhythm. He removed the dead material carefully, piece by piece. He planted the new seeds in the exact right spots. He used the vibrating stones to encourage growth. By the end of the second day, the filters were repaired. New organic material had grown to replace the old. The air flowing through the system was clean and fresh. Do-hyun stepped back and looked at his work. His hands were raw. His body was sore. But he had done it. Yuna came to inspect the repairs that evening. She walked through the lower deck slowly, examining every part of the filters. She touched the new growth with her fingers. She breathed in the clean air. Do-hyun stood to the side and waited. He did not speak. He did not ask for praise. Finally, Yuna turned to him. Her fur was no longer gray. It was a soft silver, the color of calm. "The work is good," she said simply. Do-hyun bowed. "Thank you." Yuna looked at his hands, red and blistered from the unfamiliar work. She did not comment on them directly, But later, Nari told Do-hyun what Yuna had said. He did not complain, not once. Do-hyun was learning. Actions mattered more than words, sacrifice mattered more than intentions, and the path of amends was teaching him things he had never learned before. That night, Do-hyun sat in his quarters and looked at his damaged hands. They would heal. And when they did, they would remember the lesson of the second trial. To serve others, you must let go of yourself. One trial remained. A week passed after the second trial. Do-hyun went about his duties on the station, but something had changed. The crew members who had whispered about him before now looked at him differently. They had seen him working in the Valari ship. They had seen his blistered hands and tired eyes. They had seen that he was trying to make things right. Director Kwan called him to her office again. "The Valari are talking about you," she said. Do-hyun felt his stomach tighten. "What are they saying?" "They are saying that you work hard, that you respect their ways." The director paused. "Ambassador Yuna has not said you are forgiven, but she has also stopped talking about ending the mission early." Do-hyun felt a small hope in his chest, but he knew the path was not finished. "There is one more trial," he said. Director Kwan nodded. "I know. Whatever it is, I hope you are ready." Do-hyun hoped so, too. The message from Yuna came that night. Observation deck. Station midnight. Station midnight was when the lights dimmed to simulate night. It was also when the station's rotation brought 3 different galaxies into view through the main windows. It was the most beautiful and peaceful time on Horizon's edge. Do-hyun arrived at the observation deck exactly at midnight. The room was empty except for Yuna. She stood at the window looking out at the stars. Her fur was silver, glowing softly in the dim light. "You came," she said without turning around. "Of course," Do-hyun replied. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke. "The first 2 trials were chosen by me. They tested your discipline and your service." She turned to face him. "But the 3rd trial is different. The final act of the path of amends must come from you." Do-hyun was confused. "I do not understand." "You must offer me something," Yuna explained. "Something that costs you. Something real and true. But here is the difficulty. You must offer it without knowing if I will accept it. You must make yourself vulnerable with no promise of reward." Do-hyun stood very still. This was harder than silence. This was harder than labor. This required him to open himself completely and risk rejection. "What kind of offering?" he asked. "That is for you to decide," Yuna said. "It must be something meaningful, something that shows you understand what you did wrong, something that proves you are worthy of forgiveness." She walked past him toward the door. "You have until tomorrow night. Think carefully." Then she was gone. Do-hyun stayed in the observation deck for a long time, watching the stars and thinking. What could he offer? He thought about his possessions. He could give her something valuable, but that seemed too easy, too material. Valari did not care about things the way humans sometimes did. He thought about his position. He could offer to resign from his job, to leave the station. But that felt like running away, not sacrifice. He thought about his knowledge, his skills, but those did not feel personal enough. The night passed. Do-hyun did not sleep. He sat in his quarters and searched his mind and his heart for the right answer. As the station's lights began to brighten for the morning shift, Do-hyun finally understood. The first trial had taught him to listen. The second trial had taught him to serve. The third trial was asking him to trust. He knew what he had to offer. That evening, Do-hyun returned to the observation deck. Yuna was already there, waiting. Her fur was a mixture of silver and pale gold, colors that Do-hyun had not seen together before. "Have you decided?" she asked. "Yes," Do-hyun said. He walked closer to her. His heart was beating hard in his chest. He had never felt so exposed. On Earth, he began, we have a tradition. When someone has truly wronged another person, sometimes words and actions are not enough. Sometimes the only way to show sincerity is to share a truth, a deep truth, something you have never told anyone, something that makes you vulnerable. Yuna's ears tilted forward. She was listening. I want to tell you something, Do-Yun said. Something I have carried for a long time. I am not asking for anything in return. I just want you to know. He took a deep breath and began. I had a younger sister. Her name was Yunji. She was bright and curious and full of dreams. She wanted to travel to the stars. She wanted to meet beings from other worlds. She talked about it all the time when we were children. Yuna did not move. Her eyes stayed on his face. When Yunji was 20 years old, she had a chance to visit a research station on Mars. It was her first trip off Earth. She was scared, but I told her to go. I told her it would be the adventure of a lifetime. I convinced her. Do-Yun's voice became quieter. The shuttle had a mechanical failure. Everyone on board was killed. Yunji was gone. He stopped. The memory was painful, even after all these years. He felt tears forming in his eyes, but did not try to hide them. I have carried that guilt ever since, he continued. I convinced her to get on that shuttle. If I had not pushed her, she would still be alive. Every time I make a mistake, I feel like I am failing her again. When I walked into your room instead of Nari's room, when I saw the anger in your eyes, all I could think was that I had failed again, just like I failed Yunji. The tears fell down his cheeks. He did not wipe them away. I became a diplomatic liaison because Yunji dreamed of meeting alien species. I thought maybe I could live her dream for her. Maybe I could do the things she never got to do. He looked directly at Yuna. I am not asking you to forgive me because of my sister. My mistake is my mistake, but I wanted you to know why this matters to me so much. I wanted you to see me, the real me, even the broken parts. The observation deck was completely silent. The stars turned slowly past the windows. Yuna did not speak for a long time. Her fur shifted colors slowly, from silver to gold to a soft pink that Do-Hyun had never seen before. Finally, she stepped closer to him. You have shown me your wound, she said. Her voice was gentle, different from before. That is not a small thing. Do-Hyun kept his head down. He had nothing left to offer. He had given her everything. Yuna reached out and touched his shoulder. It was the first time she had ever touched him. I see you, she said quietly. I see the broken parts, and I see the parts that are trying to heal. She stepped back. Her fur settled into a warm gold. Return tomorrow, she said. I will give you my answer. Do-Hyun bowed deeply. Then he left the observation deck. He walked back to his quarters feeling empty and full at the same time. Empty because he had given everything. Full because for the first time, someone had seen him completely. Whatever happened tomorrow, he knew the path had changed him. He was not the same person who had walked into the wrong room all those weeks ago. He was something new. Do-Hyun did not sleep that night. He lay in his bed and watched the stars through his small window. He thought about Yunji. He thought about Yuna. He thought about all the mistakes he had made and all the things he had learned. The morning came slowly. Do-Hyun went through his duties like a ghost. He could not focus on anything. His mind kept returning to the observation deck and the look in Yuna's eyes when he had told her about his sister. At midday, a message appeared on his screen. It was from Yuna. My quarters. Lunch hour. Lunch hour. That was significant. Valari shared meals with people they trusted. Was this a good sign? Do-Yun walked to Yuna's quarters with his heart in his throat. The door opened when he arrived. He stepped inside. The room looked different from before. The lights were warmer. There were small plants in the corners that had not been there before. and in the center of the room, two cushions faced each other with a small table between them. Yuna sat on one cushion. Her fur was a beautiful shade of gold. "Sit," she said. Her voice was calm. Do-Yun sat on the cushion across from her. On the table between them was a bowl of crystallized nectar, the same dish that had started all of this. Yuna looked at the bowl, then at Do-Yun. "In our culture," she said, "sharing a meal is an act of trust. Preparing a meal for someone is an act of care. But eating together as equals, that is an act of acceptance." She pushed the bowl toward the center of the table. "Eat with me," she said. Do-Yun felt his breath catch. This was not just forgiveness. This was welcome. He reached for the bowl at the same time as Yuna. Their fingers touched briefly over the crystallized nectar. Then they each took a portion and ate. The nectar was sweet and warm. But the sweetness Do-Yun felt came from something deeper. "I was wrong about humans," Yuna said as they ate. "I thought your species was careless. I thought you did not understand the weight of your actions. I thought you lived only in the moment without thinking about consequences." She looked at Do-Yun directly. "You have shown me that I was wrong. You accepted the first trial with dignity. You completed the second trial with respect. And the third trial—" She paused. "The third trial showed me your heart." Do-Yun put down his food. "I only wanted you to see the truth." "And that is exactly what made it meaningful," Yuna said. "You did not try to impress me. You did not perform for me. You simply opened yourself and let me see what was inside. That takes courage." She set down her own food and leaned forward. "Park Do-Hyun," she said formally, "I release you from Vertan. You are no longer marked. Your honor is restored." Do-Hyun felt tears in his eyes again, but this time they were tears of relief and gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered. Yuna shook her head. "Do not thank me. You earned this yourself." They finished the meal in comfortable silence. When it was over, Yuna stood. "There is one more thing," she said. She walked to a shelf and took down a small object. It was a stone, smooth and dark, with golden veins running through it. "This is a remembrance stone," Yuna explained. "In Velari culture, we give them to people who have taught us something important. You carry it to remember the lesson." She held it out to Do-Hyun. "You taught me not to judge too quickly. You taught me that mistakes do not define a person. What defines a person is what they do after the mistake." Do-Hyun took the stone. It was warm in his hand, just like the tools he had used to repair the atmospheric filters. "I will carry it always," he said. Yuna smiled. It was the first time Do-Hyun had seen her smile. Her whole face changed. She looked younger, softer. "Good," she said. "Now go. I believe your director wants to speak with you." Do-Hyun bowed and left the room. He walked through the station with the remembrance stone in his pocket and a new feeling in his chest. The word spread quickly. Ambassador Yuna had forgiven the human liaison. The path of amends was complete. The alliance was saved. Director Kwan called Do-Yun to her office. For the first time in weeks, she was smiling. "The Velari delegation has decided to extend their stay," she said. "2 more months. And Ambassador Yuna has specifically requested that you remain as their liaison." Do-Yun was surprised. "She requested me?" "Yes. She said, and I quote, that you understand their ways better than any human she has met." The director paused. "What did you do, Do-Hyun?" Do-Hyun thought about the silence, the labor, the truth he had shared. He thought about the crystallized nectar and the remembrance stone. "I learned," he said simply. Over the following weeks, everything changed. Yuna became an unexpected advocate for human-Velari relations. She spoke at meetings about the potential of the alliance. She shared Valari knowledge with human scientists. She even began to visit the observation deck regularly, where Do-hyun often found her watching the stars. One evening, Nari found Do-hyun there alone. "You did something I did not think possible," she said. Her fur was glowing with warm gold. "You reached my sister. She does not let people in easily, but she let you in." Do-hyun shook his head. "I did not do anything special. I just told the truth." Nari sat beside him. "That is what humans do not understand. Truth is special. Vulnerability is special. Your people make mistakes all the time. You stumble and fall, but you also get back up. You reach out. You try again." She looked at him with her deep golden eyes. "That is the most human thing about you." Do-hyun thought about her words. He thought about Yoon-ji and how she had always believed in him. He thought about all the times he had fallen and gotten back up. "We are not perfect," he admitted. "No," Nari agreed, "but you are sincere, and that matters more." A few days before the Valari delegation was scheduled to leave, Yuna found Do-hyun on the observation deck one last time. They stood together at the window, watching the stars. "I want to tell you something," Yuna said. Do-hyun waited. "When I return to my home world, I will tell my people about the path of amends. I will tell them about the human who walked it. I will tell them that humans can be trusted with the responsibilities of alliance." Do-hyun felt pride swell in his chest. Not pride for himself, but pride for humanity. They had been given a chance, and they had not wasted it. "Your sister would be proud of you," Yuna added quietly. Do-hyun looked at her in surprise. He had not expected her to mention Yoon-ji. "You carry her dream," Yuna said. "You meet beings from other worlds. You build bridges between species. She lives through you." Do-hyun felt tears in his eyes for the third time. But these tears were different. They were not tears of grief or relief. They were tears of healing. "Thank you," he said. Yuna nodded. Her fur shimmered gold and silver, the colors of trust and peace. "Thank you," she replied, "for showing me what humanity really is." They stood together in silence, watching the stars turn slowly past the windows. Two beings from different worlds who had found understanding through the most unexpected path. And somewhere out among those stars, Do-hyun liked to think that Yoon-ji was watching and smiling.